LeBron once lived to tell the story of the rain, sweat, glory of Mike, checks, and men who fight the destination we were destined to end. Left the writing on the wall in the halls of the Nippon Khan. Others transformed, majority Decepticons. But my conception of the...
It's officially season 2 of the Wait for It Seattle podcast on C-Town Sports. There's Kevin. See, he's so happy he made it to season 2.
Let's do it. Season 2. Let's avoid the sophomore slump.
That's fair. There isn't a sophomore slump anymore with the transfer portal, which we'll talk about today. I'm Brian, and we are here to talk everything Seattle sports. And we're going to do a little of everything on this episode. Kevin and I will kick it off with talk about a couple things relevant in Seattle sports landscape. And then we're going to have 2 guests on. We're going to have Mel White come back on, who is the UW women's club hockey coach. And she's going to talk about the Kraken's new hire, as well as the PWHL Seattle team who made some big moves.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Always.
When we talk about Mel, I don't even think we need to say club hockey. I think we can just say hockey coach, because there isn't really another hockey team to differentiate it from. So I'm just giving her a promotion.
That's nice. I'm sure she would appreciate the fictitious salary bump you just gave her also, which is related to the house settlement we'll talk about later. Is there any money for anyone besides football and men's basketball players? And then Patrick Leary, the Mariner Muse on X, will come on and talk everything Mariners.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be great. And then we wrap up, as always, with top 5. So that's what you're here for. But I want to talk about Golden Tate right out of the chute.
Yeah. Wow.
The Golden Tate, famous for a lot of things. His Seahawks tenure was fascinating. Have you noticed? Okay, Fail Mary, Maple Bars.
I don't know about the Maple Bars, but you can tell me.
When he was a rookie, he broke into a top pot at the bottom of his apartment complex or condo and just really wanted a Maple Bar late at night, is what he said. Have you not heard this before? It ended up being a non-story. Like top pot, it was
played off of it.
It went away. Yeah, they played off of it, and it was innocent enough, but it wasn't. And then he had a lot of let's just say some Russell Wilson drama.
Yeah,
while he was in Seattle. And then was he involved in like a punch of Percy Harvin or vice versa at one point?
That was in the podcast.
Yes, that's what I
appeared
thought.
On. Yes.
Okay. So no, not Percy Harvin one maybe it was.
I watched the Percy Harvin clip.
I saw a different clip. So he's on a media tour now. Golden Tate is clearly decided to become a media personality, and he's very good on podcasts.
Yeah.
So he's been on I was driving, listening to ESPN radio this morning, and he was on a big time syndicated. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's every Sunday morning in ESPN. I usually listen driving to get bets in on Sunday mornings during NFL season, which ironically, I saw another clip, coincidentally, not ironically, I saw another clip of Golden Tate talking about that he has 11 or 12 betting apps on his phone, and he bets every day. I mean, he went up in my book a little bit.
Gosh.
Golden Tate.
Tell you about, so he was on this podcast called Bussin' with the Boys. It's 2 former.
Yeah, that's the one he
NFL
talked about betting all the time.
Yeah. So the other clip I watched was about the Percy Harvin thing. So he had a quote. Reporters asked him, what's it going to be like at the Super Bowl to have Percy Harvin back? And Golden Tate, he was recounting the story, and he said, I was just telling the reporters that it would be great to have Percy back, but we've been good all year, without Percy. And Percy heard that and took it as an insult and kind of iced Tate out a little bit in the locker room. Golden Tate goes up to him and says, yo, what's going on? Right? Like, let's just chat. Let's chop it up. Percy Harvin goes, I'm good. Let's not talk about it. Tate turns around and walks away. Percy Harvin gets up and just tackles him.
Oh, wow.
And then they get in an altercation. And then I think so. Yeah, that's the story. Yeah. And then coaches talk about it the next day during the Super Bowl. Everything's good. Percy Harvin has perhaps the greatest one-hit play happen in the Super Bowl in Seattle sports history. And here we are.
So Golden Tate told another, I love that we're podcasting about a podcast right now. That's really good
it's
content.
Meta.
Yeah. He had another quote about Jalen Ramsey. So Jalen Ramsey has two kids with Golden Tate's sister.
Yeah.
And so Golden Tate didn't like how he was treating her or something, and he got upset and they were talking mess to each other. But Jalen Ramsey had this like epic hit on Golden Tate. This is when Golden Tate's on the Giants. And just it went viral. But I liked how Golden Tate talked about it. He's like, it didn't hurt that bad, but he really somebody missed a block and it just like, of course, now I'm going viral. And long story short, I think Golden Tate's going to be a media star coming up soon. That's my
Yeah.
prediction. So there you go.
It would be pretty cool if it's him and Nate Burleson at some point and all these former Seahawks.
Yeah. Golden Tate
Yeah.
wants to come on here and talk about spreads. I'm happy to do so. All right. So, well, Kev, I can't segue from spreads here or Golden Tate, but we were texting about different stuff for the podcast and different stuff this week. And then this morning you texted me, how about that UW news?
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was at first. And then I look and I didn't even know the transfer portal was open for basketball.
Well, clarification. When we say the transfer portal's open, that just means you can enter it. So
he's been in it. Okay.
He's been in it. He entered like in May.
Okay. So the he we're speaking of is a player from USC named Desmond Claude.
Yeah.
And Desmond Claude is about a 15 point per game guard. That's 15 points per game in the Big Ten last year, playing alongside Wesley Yates. USC, better than the Huskies, who everybody was, but only 7 wins in the Big Ten. That's their backcourt. And Desmond Claude, sort of out of nowhere, commits to UW basketball today.
Yeah. My reaction is I saw his size at 6'6", and I said, great, Huskies have a wing. And then I dug a little more, and I'm like, this guy plays point guard. What are we doing? Yeah. Zoom Diallo plays point guard, and he's also tall. What was the point of this, right? I feel like they just filled the wrong. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a guy that averages 15 plus points per game in the Big Ten, but I don't think it necessarily helps a whole lot. And I don't want to bench Zoom because I don't think he's totally ineffective, and I think he probably has a higher ceiling being younger than this incoming guy. But I don't know.
That's funny. I thought we were going to be farther. Yeah, I thought we were going to be farther apart, and we're kind of on the same page. I didn't, I saw 15 points per game USC. I'm like, whoa. And then people are getting excited. Percy Allen, who reported it first, I believe, for Seattle Times, then kind of gave the top 8 and had Zoom on the bench. And he had Claude, Peterson, Yates, who's the guy from like Quinnipiac or whatever it is, the shooter.
Ognacevic.
He's starting alongside
Kepnong.
No, I don't think it was Kepnong. I think he had one of the other. Yeah, maybe it was Kepnong. With Mandequit and the guy from Germany who's been blowing up, Seimbach, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Zoom as the 3 off the bench. And somebody else, a blogger, had Claude in the starting lineup with Zoom on the bench. So I was like, okay, well, what does Claude do well? To your point. And then the first thing I see is, well, he doesn't shoot it well. I'm like, what are we doing? The Huskies' biggest problem last year, everyone's like just flowering Danny Sprinkle because now it's a top 5 portal class because it's just based on stars and production, right?
The volume too.
Totally. Totally. And they're just picking up guys and they're spending millions in NIL, which is related to what we'll talk about next. He signed his NIL deal before the house settlement is what they report.
Yeah.
And so he gets the old money. But Claude shot 27% or something from 3. Helpful. Zoom doesn't shoot the 3. I'm hoping he comes back after a summer and he does shoot the 3 next year. But I dug into some advanced stats to kind of go off your point.
I love this.
So Claude had a 16 PER last year, right? So player efficiency rating, which is flawed, but is a way to say like a player's value on the floor. Zoom was 14.2. So Claude at 6'6" with his rebounds and maybe a little bit more efficient, but dig in more, right? So one of my critiques of Zoom last year, we talked about it in this podcast, is he had some huge turnovers as he was learning the point guard position in the Big Ten as a freshman. Well, Zoom is 16.7% turnover percentage. So out of 100 possessions, how many times do you turn it over, right? Or something like that. And Claude's at 20.
Yes.
Claude had a usage of 27.5%. Zoom's was higher, so maybe they're similar in that way. But they do win shares per 40 minutes. Zoom and Makai Mason had higher win shares than Desmond Claude.
Yes.
So I'm not trying to bag on the guy before he plays a minute for the UW, and maybe the depth is good enough, but is he really different than Makai Mason?
Yeah, and the other point is you take a 7-win Big Ten USC backcourt and you put it on the
Yeah.
Huskies.
Yeah.
You go from however many wins the Huskies had in the Big Ten to 7 wins. That's point one. Again, I think it's a great ad. I think it's better than no ad at all. And I also want to credit, it's not a coincidence that Quincy Pondexter has
Mhm.
brought on these two guys with
Right.
So, and I do think that there's value in having depth, right? It's a good problem to
Yes.
have. And I think that's how Sprinkle will talk about this. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have a bunch of capable guards in the Big Ten. And I
Yeah.
think it's good for Zoom to kind of feel like he is not entitled to a starting spot. And
Yeah.
I think Sprinkle's going to like that. So I think there are positives here. And definitely a surprise. And I think it'll be interesting to see what the starting five will look like. And I
Yeah.
don't think Sprinkle will know until maybe 3 to 5 games in.
Yep. I think you have great points. Awesome points. Like the depth is not totally agree. Depth is good.
Yeah.
6'6" is something too in a physical conference. Zoom's pretty skinny. I mean, maybe Claude plays a much more physical brand of basketball, which they needed. I'm not saying he's not good, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have added him, to your point. Like, if you
Yeah.
got the spot and somebody's paying the money, go for it. Like, you're
Yeah.
right. Awesome. I just saw a bunch of this is what social media does. We're either like, hey, the Mariners are Satan and
Yeah.
Jerry Dipoto is the devil. Like, that's people hate the Mariners right now.
Yeah.
Or Husky basketball adds a guy, Husky football signs a guy, and the national championship is coming.
Yeah.
So let's live in between. I do think that they have to make the tournament or be in the mix, right? I mean, I wouldn't get rid of Sprinkle if they don't.
Yeah.
Enough talent added,
Yeah.
right? Like,
There's been early articles before the Claude
right.
thing saying that the Huskies are probably like number 7 in the Big Ten, which would put them in the bubble around there.
That would be the
You
highest
know,
I've seen. I've seen a
yeah.
lot of people. There's some people pretty low on their ads and put them in the tier of like Bubblicious
Yeah.
with 5 other teams, which is
Yes.
basically all of the Big Ten. But
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, all right, that
Great
was an
stuff.
interesting Sunday morning ad. Bigger news that I want to ask you about is this house settlement for college sports.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so let's start with this. I have 3 questions for you. Um, how is this different than what we've seen since 2021, where players were allowed to earn money?
Yes, colleges were never ever directly paying the athletes. So the way the athletes got paid is they'd sign a contract with, a good example is EA Sports, to use their name, image, and likeness in the game. Or they'd sign with a collective, which every university would have like an affiliated collective. For the Huskies, it's Montlake Futures. So the way Montlake works is a player signs a contract, I believe, with Montlake Futures. Montlake Futures sets them up with NIL opportunities. So a lot of it is about charitable giving in the Seattle area. And then in exchange for them posting something on Instagram, they'll get a check. Now we had Joe Knight on our podcast, who's the executive director of Dogs Unleashed, and he just said the whole thing is just pay to play. Everyone acknowledges it, everyone knows it. Now I'm saying this, it's kind of a fiction because people openly acknowledge like it's really important to fund the collective because that's going to pay our players. So that's how it's different.
Under the old model, it's important to fund the collective.
Yes, under the old model.
In the new model, they have a $20.5 million salary cap, essentially. And they can distribute it, as of right now, a college like the University of Washington can distribute it however they want.
Yes. So it's commonly called rev share because the idea is that UW goes and or the Big Ten has a big TV contract with all these networks. They pay the pockets of the university, and the university can share up to I think it's 20.5 million, however they want it. Now, you said something about the collectives, like, are they relevant? Well, they still are relevant because it's 20.5. That's as much as the university can give people want to give more, you have the collective to give more money. Now, the problem is now there's kind of an entity that
Yeah.
will look at everything, both the deals that the schools do and the deals that the collectives do and everything else that will look and kind of see if something is, quote, what Joe Knight called real NIL.
So is the collective paying NIL now, or are schools?
Both.
Okay.
It's got to be both. Yeah.
So the collective can go above and beyond the 20.5. I thought they were limited to 20.5.
20.5 cap is what the school can distribute. And that's actually going to raise over time. The idea was it would level the field because not one school can, like Alabama compared to like Oregon State would be an example, right?
Yeah.
They both can only pay out 20.5. This doesn't get rid of the collective problem, right? Now,
See,
I
I
think
thought
the
it because everybody got excited about Oregon, for example, not being able to use Phil Knight's money in a collective, but you're telling me the opposite, or I'm misunderstanding.
No, they can. I mean, they no. The collective stuff still exists.
Why was all of Husky Twitter geeking out over Oregon going down now?
Because
Is it because they don't understand it?
I think they don't understand it. Like, and I think that, I mean, 20.5 million is a lot of money, but I still think that the collectives can exist and these players can sign deals with NIL collectives. Will it be as important for the football program? No, because the school's going to be paying them.
Well, let's go with the 20.5. What's an unintended consequence that you see coming for UW based on this new ruling? And I'm thinking specifically like who's going to get hurt by this? Everyone talks about, oh, this would be good, but who?
No, I mean, all the Olympic sports are going to suffer and there's going to be cuts. And I think that's the best way to balance things is to just cut sports. Schools were doing this pre-house settlement because they were envisioning this was what's going to happen. I keep on going back to the example of what happened at LMU. Like it's happening at other schools where they're cutting their non-revenue sports. And so at UW, though, I think UW is a big enough institution where they can reach into the coffers and find donors that will help out these programs. But it's kind of weird because depending on how a school allocates its resources, and I think men's basketball is a great example of this. UConn, for example, is going to put more money into its men's basketball program than its football program,
Right.
probably, or Villanova, right?
The one I read about today was St. John's and Rick Pitino. So they have. I mean, St. John's could put 20.5 million in men's basketball if they want.
Yeah.
Right. And whereas Alabama is going to put a lot of that into college football. So, I think about UW women's basketball. Like what happens to them? Will it affect, because we've had this question on this podcast. Like we don't know what El Ladine's getting. We don't know if Avery Howell got a bag to come to UW from USC. Or what the level of that was. Will that change, or are they still operating with something that works for them? How does it Juju Watkins get affected at USC, right? USC's got huge football, and then Juju Watkins still get Nike money? Yeah. And is that where Deloitte is now overseeing that NIL, like you talked about, sort of the collective outside or the endorsement deals through endorsement? Yeah. Let me ask you this question. Are endorsement deals included in NIL, or are they separate?
I think it's included in NIL.
But the way you first presented it, I was like, oh, if they can have both, then nothing's different here. The one thing I heard that I don't know, Deloitte is going to oversee the value of your NIL, whether you're for the school or outside of, let's say, in your example. So an example is there's a Texas Tech pitcher who just got $1 million NIL right before this. There's probably not market value for any softball player to have $1 million deal.
Yeah.
So there's two parts. One, will that ever happen again if there's an oversight committee? And then two, if the oversight committee says no, but someone's willing to do it, isn't she going to sue the NCAA? Aren't we going to have more lawsuits?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be more lawsuits. And this is everything that I'm saying that I said before, and I'm going to say now. These views are all my own. They're not of my employer, and they're not in any other capacity besides just.
Oh wow! You just
went
legal.
My opinion.
Mine's not of my employer either, because my employer doesn't care about the NIL collective. Yeah. Although, can I tell you something? Yeah. I know of a high school athlete who has an NIL deal now for the first time.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I'm not going to talk anymore
Yeah.
about that, but because of, yeah, but it was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a mess. And
Yeah.
it's a mess because it's created through a settlement. There's been a lot of buzz about going to Congress and basically getting the antitrust exemption. So this is the issue is we've turned this into it's been turned into a professional model, but there's no collective bargaining, which every major sports league
That
in
was
the
my next
States
question.
has an exemption or has collective bargaining,
Yeah.
right? And so without that, it's just this fiction that will be kept keep on being challenged in court. I think there's a lot of other issues. I think there's Title IX. How can you justify paying the men's programs 18 million and the women's programs 2 million? Seems unequal to me, which Title IX is meant to prevent. How do you get around um, this idea of a third party company saying what real NIL is?
Yeah.
As soon as you submit a deal that's going to get rejected and you don't like it, you're just going to go to court and challenge it. And then
Right.
that thing is
Totally.
just blown up. So
Right.
my prediction is that there will definitely be more litigation. I'm 99% sure.
And I guess
Yeah.
the critique of Oregon, let's stay there,
Yeah.
is that Phil Knight can't, in theory, and we don't know if he's really doing this, give millions of dollars just for whatever recruit they want because Deloitte is going to, or it's Deloitte plus there's another oversight part. They hired
Yeah.
NCAA hired, or the Power Four conferences hired an MLB executive who's really good at oversight to come in and be their leader now, which is interesting. So they have this whole oversight part, right? And they say they're going to punish people who cheat. I'll believe it when I see it. But the point is, Phil Knight can't say, "Here's 7 million, do whatever you want with it."
No, Phil Knight has to have a
Phil Knight,
Nike deal with the sixth man of Oregon basketball.
or the collective, if they still exist, which some
Yeah.
may not anymore. The collective, because it's so murky, would have to have a deal with the athlete that is no longer the Wild West. There's oversight, and they would say that person's not worth that value in the market, so
Yeah.
you can't give them that much money. So it's not unlimited funds for anybody.
Yeah.
Is the idea? Oh, no.
Thank you. Okay.
People like the conversation. It's good, Kev.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
have to be perfect. Roster limits instead of scholarships is interesting. That might be a way some colleges entice. I think about Mariner construction, and we're going to talk to Patrick about this and like Jerry DePoto's inability to construct that I think he'll agree with within limits. So DePoto has limits. Goes out and gets dotted along guys who Leody Taveras who are really not worth their value. If Ohio State said they're going to add 91 scholarships across sports, so maybe the kid who can't get a big NIL deal but would love a scholarship now gets a scholarship, and you can add value that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's the money. It's not Moneyball, but it's the idea of economic thinking that's outside of what everybody else is talking about, which is how much is Desmond Claude getting to go to UW, right?
I would love to get in the minds of the people constructing rosters at Owazu and Oregon State, maybe even Stanford, kind of not the big market team, but still has funds, and then trying to maximize, like it's almost like a game.
Yeah, to go back to our point, I think you're right. I think the UConn's interesting because they actually have football, but like the St. John's of the world, who,
Creighton, Gonzaga.
yeah, Gonzaga is a great local angle. Like, how much are they, if they have 20.5 to work with? Now, does Gonzaga have 20.5? Does everybody get it? Is it because it's revenue share?
Everyone in the Power Four
Okay.
will have up to 20.5.
So Gonzaga won't necessarily.
Gonzaga won't necessarily have 20.5, and I think schools can opt into this whole idea.
That's right. That's right. And then it'll be interesting to see if anyone opts out. And yeah, this is just the story to become. But
Yeah.
thanks for answering questions, Kev. That's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I watched the Storm last night, and I know you might have. My wife went to the Valkyries game without me, and she
Ooh,
saw
they
them
whooped on the
crush.
Aces.
Yeah, crush
Yeah.
the Aces.
Yeah.
She went with her friend, so I was with
Oh.
JJ. We went to the
see.
mall. The mall on
Okay.
Saturdays suck, by the way. Don't go to the mall on Saturdays.
Too many people or what?
Yeah, just too many people. you know?
You know what though, Kev? You'll have an experience. I haven't gone to the mall in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden your kids get older, and my kids are in a shoe era and in a graphic tees era,
Yeah.
and so the mall is a little bit back, and they like the stuff I like, so it's
Yeah.
actually not that bad.
And 90s
Um,
clothing is back too.
it
So
sure is.
you're
It sure
back
is.
and like you're
It's
walking
my
back, you're like, I'm
it's my
like
era.
back
I'm
where,
ready to
yeah.
roll.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep.
feeling
So
great.
yeah, tell me what's going on with the storm. I have my opinions of what I saw last night. But I'm interested to see how you think they're doing
That's your
as of
first
late.
question. How's the
Yeah.
storm doing? My overall impression is we don't know much. Okay, so they started 0-1. They won three in a row. They're 5-4 now. They just beat a Mercury team who is missing their best player. Sorry, they're two of their three best players. Now, one, Kalia Copper, hasn't played the whole year. The Mercury are a good team. It was in Phoenix. Skylar Diggins had a great second half. I don't know. They're playing a hard schedule to start the year. They played the Lynx on Wednesday, who are undefeated. They play
Yeah.
the Liberty soon. They have the Fever coming up with Caitlin Clark, who'll be back. They play the Aces again, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The WNBA is too small. It's annoying to play these teams. They played the Mercury three times already. What are we
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah,
Why
that's
have
how
they played the Mercury three times in
sometimes I
9
open up
games?
the WNBA League Pass and I open it up. I'm like, I thought I watched this game 2 days
Yes.
ago. They just traveled to the other place.
So I use YouTube TV now, and it like automatically records stuff I start watching,
Yeah.
and then it will be on the sort of like go-to screen, and I have no idea if it's new or not because they play the same teams all the time.
Another question I have about the Storm. Dominic Malonga is getting a lot of play, and she's one of the reasons why Leary went out and just
Oh
demanded a
yeah.
trade. How good is Dominic Malonga?
I think she's pretty good. I'm excited they're playing her. Noah Quinn has had a number of like young players they've given up on early. There's a player named Jade Melbourne who's pretty young, who's like thriving somewhere else right now and would be a great backup guard for us. We just seem to give up on them. I don't know how much of it's Quinn or how much of it's somebody else. So I like that they're playing Malunga. She's improving on defense. She had a nice switch on to Sabali, who's Phoenix's best player, and totally kept her in front. It was great. I'm looking up her minutes right now. So she's playing 10, 9, 13, 11, and 13 minutes the last 5 games. I think if you read my preview, I said she's going to be about 10 minutes a game and go up from there. So it's the one thing I nailed in that preview was this is what they're going to do with her, right or wrong. She can score. She looks more comfortable. I think my theme with the Storm in general is they got to find a way to develop young players. They're just in this awkward window where they're not good enough to win the championship, which I guess is fine. I mean, it's not, right? I don't want Malunga's growth to be stunted for a first round playoff exit. So in the next 2 weeks, I'd like to see those minutes be like 20.
Just
I want to see her
spike up.
playing 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And Leary can take her trade request and roll with it because Leary is a walking, moving screen and is not helpful. I was very excited about her, and when
Yeah, you
I saw her trade request. First of all, I've read that the Chinese national team is part of this trade request because for her to play in the States, they wanted her to get playing time. So she's had sort of an awkward quote where she said, "I love this team. I just want to play," sort of,
Yeah.
which is fine. Leary, you shouldn't be playing on this team.
Ah,
Which
man.
she also recognized. Actually, in her quote, she said, "We have four of the best. We have the best post player on earth. I think that's NECA. And then we have four really good post players. So it's hard for me to play." So she kind of gets it.
Yeah.
She's not great.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of her game right now. I want
Yeah.
Malunga to play 20 minutes. So
And
that's
here's
all.
my final
Yeah.
question for you. Can Skylar Diggins sustain her level of play? Because I feel like her usage rate is very high. She scored what, 26 in the Mercury win yesterday,
Yeah.
on Saturday. She's averaging 6.4 assists, third in the WNBA. It just seems like a lot for her
She's
to be
probably
carrying this
playing
and the distributing role. Go
she's
ahead.
playing a little above her level, probably, right? Like I'm looking at her advanced stats and it's all pretty ridiculous. Yeah,
She's averaging
pretty
around 17
good.
per game.
Yeah, she's at per 36 minutes. She's incredible. I mean, all of her stuff is really, really good. Her
Yeah.
3-point shooting is up, but I'd say she could play pretty close to this level.
Yeah.
Skylar Diggins, before she's had 2 kids. I don't know this for sure. I think I'm close on this. She might be the only player in the WNBA who's had 2 children. There are players who have had 1 child, but obviously, I have not given birth, but like to give birth twice and come back and play in the WNBA is an incredible feat, and to play at that level. So last year was her first year back after maternity leave, and in her second year back now, it makes sense that she's risen up a whole level. I mean, Kev, she's averaged 17 or more 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a row before her second child. So last year was more of the outlier than this year. She's been all WNBA twice. No, 4 times, and second team twice. She's been a top 10 MVP 4 times as well. So we're talking about an elite player. I just think you didn't see that last year, and she was out the year before. So it's easy to forget how good she was. So yeah, and if she plays at that level, that raises their ceiling a little bit, but the Liberty and the Lynx are just on a different level. And I think when Caitlin Clark comes back for Indiana, they go up. Atlanta clearly is a good team. The Aces are struggling, but are probably better than the Storm long term. So cool. We're back into the spot where we're like the 5th best team in the league. And hence my point of play Malonga. Like, if you're going to be in this window of maybe we can get out of the first round, but we're probably not winning a championship, you also have to build for the future.
Agreed. I agree with you.
Forever.
It's not good, but it's not, it's not going to tip off the AI to think this was a exciting conversation. Yeah.
Let me say this, though. Building for the future is a great segue for our 2 guests. We'll talk about that both with both our hockey teams in Seattle. And then we'll also talk about that with the Seattle Mariners. Should they be playing for now or for the future, or what combo makes sense? So we're going to have Mel come up first, followed by Patrick to wrap up our podcast. All right. Our second segment on this podcast, minus Kevin, who has to do real work. We're joined by Mel White, who is the UW women's hockey coach. And Mel is going to talk to us about hockey in June, if you can believe it. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not the Kraken playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, but maybe someday. I don't think that's coming any time soon, unfortunately, but
yeah, we can hope.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Okay. So we're going to talk Kraken first, and then we're going to talk about PWHL Seattle, the new women's professional hockey team in Seattle, in that league, I guess. There's been different versions of leagues, but this one's really exciting. And there's some star power our listeners need to know about. Okay, so the Kraken, the big news is Lane Lambert is now their head coach. Once the head coach of the New York Islanders, most recently an assistant with Toronto. From what I researched, mostly in charge of penalty kills / defense for Toronto, where he's been very good. So what is your general impression of the Lane Lambert hire?
Yeah, I'm sort of, I guess, just interested to see where it goes and to see how the whole coaching staff comes together, because right now we don't have much of a staff. We have about 2 people. And so interested just to see how it develops. I feel like we got caught in a time where there was a big coaching turnover this last year in the NHL. And so it was definitely a harder, I think, market to find your head coach this year. I think we were one of 7 teams looking for a new head coach. So there's a little bit of just trading coaches around that happened in this off season. So I'm interested to see what happens and where it goes this year. Excited about the fact that we'll have some focus on defense. Feel like our defense has been maybe a little bit all over the place these last couple of years.
So in doing my research, I think you'll be impressed with me, Mel. I watched the press conference today. And so did you go? I felt like you would have gone for some reason. Okay.
I did not.
Okay. Well, and I skipped through some questions that weren't as relevant, but I was kind of looking for, he doesn't really say what they're going to do, because why would you? But both him and the GM, Jason Botter, here's what Lambert said. Special teams will be better and will be better in our defensive zone. Can you explain what those mean to our listeners?
Yeah. So special teams is your power play, penalty kill, which especially when you get to the playoffs, like you have to have those down. You're not winning a playoff game if you can't score on the power play or don't have a great penalty kill. So you really need to be great in those areas to be like a great, well-rounded team. And then in our defensive zone, I think one thing that the Kraken got caught a lot doing last year is they got trapped in the defensive zone, which is like where our goalie is for an extended period of time. And what happens is you usually get tired, and then that leads to getting a goal scored on. So having a focus of developing the defensive zone really does lead to offense, because if you can break the puck out better and faster, win battles down low, and then figure out how to move up ice, you're going to end up in the offensive zone, which is obviously the goal, to be in the offensive zone more than the D zone. So it will help building from that standpoint out.
So the ways you can get out of the defensive zone, obviously you can have more talent, but I'm assuming you could be a more physical team, like check people more physical on the boards, or you could be, I think of soccer, sort of that high press, like aggressively attacking the person with the puck. Is there a different way? Does that make any sense? Like,
I get what you're saying.
Like, how does a team become better in the defensive zone, I guess is my question.
Yeah, part of it too is that physicality and being physical on the puck, but then finding different ways to support each other. So whether it's like say your defenseman is in a corner battling for the puck, making sure your center is in the right space to pick up that win, and then everyone else is adjusting off of it. So it might be that you transition to drop your wings down a little bit lower to support, or what I would actually like to see is our defensemen skate the puck out a little bit more. I like keeping that possession when you're skating it out. And then as you're bringing that pressure out, because you're skating it, it allows for your wings to open up a little bit more to create some more time and space for either A, you to keep skating, or B, to finally then make a pass. And then you're also not trying to make a 30-foot pass out of the zone. You're only trying to make 5 or 10-foot pass out of the zone. So it'd be great to see that happening a little bit more.
It feels like they have talent defensively. I mean, I don't know if all those players are great skaters with the puck, but they have talent at the defensive end. I mean, they have potential talent at forward that we're sort of waiting to see, which is part of the whole dilemma with the Kraken. Are Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, and potentially Berkeley Catton going to be stars, semi-stars, just average players? And I think that's where the potential goes. So speaking of offensively, here's what he said. Here was his quote. "We will be at the net in the offensive zone. We will be aggressive. We will put shots on the net." So I interpret, tell me if I'm wrong, being at the net, when I watch good hockey teams, like playoff hockey, and you taught me this a long time ago, like when we used to work together and I'd come ask you hockey questions like that, and I don't know if it's always the center or it can be a different forward. Somebody goes in front of the goalie. I love this part about hockey. I don't know why I love it so much. Maybe because it doesn't translate to other sports, but blocking the goalie's vision and you have to be so strong and physical to do that and withstand the hits. I just think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're on the same page with that.
It's so fun.
Do the Kraken not do that well currently? That's what I was kind of interpreting from this.
I think it wasn't consistent. Was the thing is, and I think as we got our lines together a little bit better, like when we got Capo and they were playing him with like Beniers and Schwartz, like that line started clicking. And it's because he brings a great physical presence. Beniers can skate with the puck so well, and Schwartz is like an ultimate just ice vision, knows where to be to make the pass. So like that, I feel like when that line started clicking, like we had someone in front of the net all the time. So I think it was more just like consistency and doing that. And I know one thing like Coach Jessica Campbell talked about a ton last year was the same thing. Like we weren't getting enough pucks to the net, and that was something she kept reiterating. So it's good to hear that like they're kind of on the same page with that. And I mean, it's the only way you're going to score goals. If you could get pucks to the net. And so if you can bring a great physical presence in front of the net, not only does it distract the goalie, but like it a defender or center has to stay on you, which is one less person like floating around. And then really you're drawing two people in front of the net because you've got that opposing player there trying to push you out. And then they might be screening their own goalie.
Right.
So win-win.
Right. Yeah, it seems like that was interesting from Coach Lambert. He definitely, as they asked him questions, to your point to begin, he talked about structure, detail. Everyone has a job. They know their job. There's no gray areas, but it really kept coming back to defense. He kept saying, no, we're going to be balanced. People would ask him questions about balance, but he's clearly defensive minded.
Yes.
As you know, like we're both coaches, you have a preference. Like just coaches are either one or the other. They can say all they want. And so I think we'll see an improved defense for sure. I'm hoping that, to your point, and he talked about this, the movement from defense to offense, a transition game. Maybe if they're better defensively, they'll get better transition, which opens up more shots on the net.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. A team that doesn't look like they're going to have trouble offensively is the PWHL Seattle, the women's hockey team. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to read you a quote from the live stream that I watched. I think we both watched this. So I'm going to read the quote and then we got to go back to how this all worked. But today there was a live stream of, we'll call it the expansion draft, and we'll rewind to how we got here. Yeah. But the quote was, these forwards that Seattle has put together are insane.
Yeah.
So the commentators were like, there's firepower in Seattle. So let's rewind. The first step, I think I have this right. There's 6 teams in the PWHL. Vancouver and Seattle come in as 7 and 8. Vancouver and Seattle are expansion. They get an expansion process. The process began with teams could protect, I think, 3 players.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they had an exclusive signing window. And I thought this was so cool because not all expansions do this. So if you're not protected by one of the 6 teams, then Vancouver and Seattle have it was like a 5-day or 7-day window to sign up to 5 players. And the players cannot agree, but you have this exclusive window. So it's just Vancouver and Seattle competing with each other. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
And then the big news out of that is Hilary Knight. So I think even casual hockey fans will know Hilary Knight from the Olympic fame of the USA. She led the PWHL in points, I believe, last year. She was in Boston, and now she's in Seattle.
Yeah.
So we have Hilary Knight. I'm not going to be able to say all their names. Alex Carpenter. Those are the 2 that really stuck out to me. Yeah. And then Danielle Serdachny. Thank you. So those are 3 forwards. Kayla Barnes is a defender and Corinne Schroeder as a goalie. Let's start with Knight and Carpenter. That has to be a pretty exciting start.
I mean, super exciting. You're getting like Olympians on your team right away, which is incredible. They know each other. Like that's helpful in terms of just chemistry and locker room building, even if they're not on the same line. And I mean, as soon as you have a name like Hilary Knight on your team, not only do you know the type of player you're getting, like legendary player, most games played for Team USA, and then also, you know, you're also getting a leader. Like to know that you're getting that in your locker room as you're building a new franchise, that adds, I think, as coaches, like something that we think about all the time, but maybe not something else that everyone else thinks about. And then just as, like you said, as a casual fan, you're like, oh, I know that name. Yeah. Like that's so cool. Like you're already now connected to the team and to the game in a way that maybe you wouldn't be. So it's, I mean, yeah, it was so cool.
And she's older relative. You know, there's talk that maybe she'll be a one and done in the PWHL because she retired from international play. But one of the things they talked about on the stream is, as we talk about some of the other players they added, it's a pretty exciting roster. So you can really sell Hilary Knight on staying for a couple more years, hopefully. She did sign a 1-year contract, but you're adding the points leader. I mean, it's not like quite like adding Connor McDavid, I think, because it's a little different prime. But you're adding one of the best players in the league. That didn't happen for the Kraken when they started. They did not add one of the best players in the league.
No. And to like have also, I think the other advantage is like, you know, every women's sports player who's come to Seattle has like fell in love with the city, felt so welcome. And so I hope that is another pull to like stay for another year.
Right.
But yeah, how can you not be excited about playing with this whole new group of players? Again, people you know from the Olympic team, also new people that you don't know but have played against. It's just such a great opportunity.
Yeah. I think Jewel Lloyd would like a word with you about loving Seattle, but that's not the city. She had no problem with the city.
Exactly.
She's got some issues, but that's another podcast. You can listen to the Sue Bird podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carpenter was 13th in the league in points last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then today, so the second stage here is they had an expansion draft. So other people unprotected, they can select them like you would see in a normal expansion draft. So the first person they drafted was a 24-year-old forward named Hannah Bilka, who was the number 4 pick in the 2024 draft. That one got me really excited.
So excited. She's like a physical presence. Again, like also knows how to find her way to the net. She's going to be another like fan favorite.
That's awesome. And then they added Jesse Eldridge, another forward who is one of the top scoring forwards in the league the last 2 years. She's top 10 all time in scoring. So that's where the people on the stream are like, what is happening? They have so much firepower.
And Eldridge scores some like fun goals. Like not only does because she can just shoot from like anywhere and she has such a good release, like, but she's going to score some of those fun, like you see it on the highlights going in top shelf and you're like, okay, that's my player. Well, something cool that they've done is bringing in Wilgren in this last round of the draft. She and Kayla Barnes were D pairs at the very beginning on the Montreal Victoire. So they don't have to stay D pair, you know, here in Seattle, but the fact that you have two people who have been a D pair together, you could maybe start them on the power play or something like that if you want to split them up and mix them up to be, you know, maybe leading with someone else. But the fact that, you know, you were able to kind of draft both of those players is great. Also,
chemistry already.
Yeah.
Which is so important. Yeah.
Also, like Barnes is really great at jumping in on the play. So is Teralova. Like both of them aren't really afraid to join the rush, which is great. So that way it gives you some dynamic ability to just have more goal scorers, even from your defensive end.
Seems if they have one area I'm a little concerned, it would be goaltending as of right now. They added Corinne Schroeder. The last 2 years I looked up 2.4 goals allowed each season, which is not great among goaltenders in the league. What do you think about goaltending in Seattle?
Yeah, I think what's great about her, though, she can definitely come in as a starter. But what's also great is if you get someone in, which they have to pick up another goalie in the draft.
Right.
But you have to have another goalie.
Yeah.
Or in this other signing period that will open up once people don't have contracts and things like that. She could also be someone who pushes someone else and there could be like a 1A, 1B scenario. Gotcha. It's nice that at least we have a goalie who's definitely capable of starting. She did get a couple shutouts this last year also, which is a good sign, especially on a struggling New York team.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit hard to kind of completely judge, as New York was one of the teams that struggled the most out of the PWHL, but also there are only what's crazy and which is going to be great now. I mean, the goalie competition for the entire PWHL is going to get so much better because, I mean, there were only like 18 goalies in the entire league, which there's more than that. You know, you see some of these international players during Olympic period and you're like, wow, this player would be awesome to have or coming out of college. So what's exciting is it'll add more goalies to the pool and get some really good, like even inter-team competition going to be able to take that like official number 1 spot.
Nice. So what's cool about all this is there, like you said, there's a free agency period coming up, and then there's also an amateur draft. So we just get more excitement about additions. And I think what we want to say, Mel, is follow along and go get tickets. Get tickets to this team. The league averaged about 7,000 fans per game. Just to put it in comparison, the Reign are averaging 8,500 per match this year. I think there's no reason why the PWHL Seattle, which doesn't have a nickname yet, can't be at, 9,000, 8,000, maybe 10,000 per game. I mean, this is a team people need to go watch.
Absolutely. If you've never been to a hockey game before, this is for sure the time to go. Like, bring your friends. Hockey games are a good time. Plus, like, we all know the women's sports atmospheres in Seattle are some of the best. And so here's just another chance. Like, if you love a Storm game, okay, it's the off season for basketball fans, go to a hockey game. Like, you're gonna love it, and it's gonna be so much fun. It's physical, it's fast, there's goal scoring. Go to a game, get tickets. If you want to learn more about it, go listen to the Jock and Jill's podcast. Like,
Perfect.
There's some great stuff out there to get you ready for some PWHL Seattle.
I love it. I love it. Well, Mel, thank you. It's awesome to talk to you as always. And I think I'm getting better with my hockey knowledge, but I need you to make me feel better. So thanks for joining us.
Happy to talk hockey anytime.
Awesome. All right. We're joined here by Patrick Leary, who is your one half of Mariner Muse. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it's a wavering number, I would say.
Perfect.
It varies.
Mariner Muse, very, very popular on the X platform. People like to engage with you in many ways, I would say.
Lovely platform these days.
Lovely platform these days. Lots of good stuff. Some people say it's the best platform. Anyway, okay. The Mariners are 11-17 since May 9th. Not great. This is a simple question, but not easy. What do you think is most to blame for this stretch of bad baseball?
I think that they have 2 to 3 good players, and Randy Arozarena is pretty good. So I'll say they have 4 good players, and they're getting absolutely nothing from any of the other ones.
Now, are you referring to hitters specifically here?
Yeah. I mean, their pitching's kind of been okay. I mean, their bullpen is what it is. It's they've kind of lost their touch a bit with conjuring some of these relievers out of thin air.
Yep.
But they still got Matt Brash, who I believe still has a 0 ERA this year. Yeah. Munoz, he blew a couple saves in the Minnesota series, but they only lost one of those, and he didn't pitch for a week and then got the save on Sunday. So it's not like he's been a disaster.
Yeah.
They just don't. I mean, if you look at the guys that they're trotting out there, from at least 5 through 9 every night right now.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's a couple of up and coming guys like Cole Young and Ben Williamson are generally manning the bottom of the order right now. But I mean, right now we just watched Rowdy Tellez and Miles Mastrobuoni 6 and 7 tonight.
I mean, that's wild. That's a wild sentence, actually.
Tellez has had an okay year for the Mariners, I would say. I mean, like, his defense at first base is terrible, so WAR is not going to be a good stat for him. But generally, he's been like a league average bat, which is what you'd expect from a guy who's generally been a dinger hitter who struggles at everything else for his career. And they signed him in like late February. So that's what you get in late February when that's what you do. But I mean, they don't have enough good hitters, and Arozarena hasn't been great. Polanco was terrible in May, and if any of it really drops off, they're just not that good. Like, Cal Raleigh's been the best hitter in baseball, arguably, since May. Like, obviously, I think Aaron Judge is significantly better.
Yeah, since May 9th, his WRC plus is 226.
Yeah, I think
it's second in American League behind Aaron Judge, which is silly.
Like, Aaron Judge is ridiculous and will win MVP, but they just don't have enough. They don't have enough good hitters, and the guys they're trotting out in those 4 or 5 spots every day are terrible.
They're 13th in runs, 13th in batting average, 14th in OPS, second worst in K percentage in that span.
Yeah.
At the same time, their pitching is, I think I saw both relievers and starters is 10th in the American League in ERA. Now ERA is flawed, right? But if you go xFIP, it's 12th. So it's not any better. So they're kind of just a bad baseball team over the last minute, or a slightly below average, because like you said, Munoz doesn't blow a save. You get a little batted ball luck here. Leody Taveras, who's no longer a Mariner, doesn't drop a ball in Los Angeles that it has a 99% catch probability. And maybe you're 14-14 instead of 11-17, but
and you don't get
still not good
month. You don't get the worst month you've ever gotten from a Mariner from Leody Taveras. Like, it was so bad.
Right.
And And it was a decent enough like bet, especially when you knew that
Totally
you
agree. Yeah.
weren't going to get Luke Raley. But I mean, you can't really defend the result of, okay, my division rival has DFA'd a guy that has been good enough for a while. I'm going to pick him up and play him in right field and use basically what I have left until my ownership decides that we need to authorize more spending to try to make the playoff until the trade deadline, and use it on him, and you can't defend the fact that he was just miserably awful, basically.
Right. And I think all of us liked the shot, but this goes to Dipoto. You know, I've been a little bit of a Dipoto backer, mostly because the drafting has been so good.
Been good, yeah.
And I'm like, well, this guy didn't work out, this guy, but that's now the story all the time and that's kind of the narrative I'm seeing a lot now on social media is if you're given a limited budget, like a lot of people are in sports and a lot of different sports, or if you have a hard cap in one of these other sports, you have one, you can't miss this often.
Yeah.
And he's missing on every hitter.
The two perspectives I've been coming around to lately is one is, okay, yes, he's undermined by the fact that ownership isn't willing to go above a league average budget.
Right.
But that's the job now. And you have to you have to do the job. And part of why he still has the job is because he has told them that they don't need to spend, like he doesn't push for more. And he was willing to tear it down in 2018 and say like, hey, I can build it back better.
Right.
And he hasn't done that. But the other perspective that I've been coming around to on it, and I'm really hoping I don't forget what my other point was here, but there are like ways to do it. And he just like continues to make these decisions that force them to overcome. Like he's so good with the young players and the drafting and getting value out of players that are pre-arbitration or in arbitration. But the decisions he makes in the like latter half are just he's continually like coming up short and almost having to make up for the choices he does make with the like final 20%. Right. And so like if you're going to fight yourself that much on your decision style, I just think somebody else has to do the job at a certain point. Like if you look at the resume over 10 years, there's no reason. And like obviously context matters. And yes, he had to cut payroll in or not increase payroll in 2024 season. The job is the job. And there's no one who would look at one playoff appearance in 10 years and say like this is someone that needs to continue because of it's just not. He's out of time. He's had time. He's done his stuff, and somebody else needs to have a try at it, regardless of whether it's risky to just like hire X GM off the street because of how iffy the situation is with ownership.
Right. Well, let's talk about this year and if there's time. With Logan Gilbert coming back, Kirby was phenomenal on Sunday, which was really good to see.
Yeah, that was great.
Maybe Bryce Miller goes to IL. It looks like Logan Evans is on the taxi squad in Arizona, so maybe that's a good fix. You've got, like you said, Spire, ideally Brash, Munoz at the back of the pen. Does this team have improvement coming? Will it naturally improve without moves?
I think they could sort of settle into a narrow victory type, what we're used to from the Mariners, where they're getting really good pitching and are able to win close games regularly over the next, however long it takes Logan Gilbert to get back. I don't know, the offense. It feels like even though the offense was really good in April, it feels like there's actually a new trapdoor level of suck possible for the offense for like the next couple of months. Like it really, I think people were amazed for a while how good the results they were getting were from trotting out guys that you couldn't believe were even on a major league roster.
Dylan Moore was awesome. Polanco was awesome. Yeah. Rivas was awesome for like a
Rivas
2-week
was
stretch.
Crazy. Yeah.
And then Tellez would hit a bomb every once in a while. And obviously, I mean, to your point, is Cal going to play at this level, right?
No, I mean, Cal will have a 170 WRC plus probably, or 160 maybe for the season. And he's already down to like 190. So he'll be worse than he's been. And that's totally fine because he's going to have an amazing season.
One of my arguments in the offseason when Kevin and I would talk, and this isn't groundbreaking, but if you're going to have an offense like this and you have small margins like DePoto, I just didn't understand why you don't go all in on relievers. Like,
Yeah,
build your
certainly.
pen, right? Like, so I think it's arrogance is what I've come to, because to your point, when we started this, they've been able to turn the Paul Seawalds and
Yeah.
the whoever else is, aspire and reclamate these careers. And
Mhm.
I think that's what they thought they were doing with Carlos Vargas this year, who was nice, but he blows up every once in a while, right? And Bizardo and these guys. I wish they had just spent some, if this is the path they're going to take, which is a limited offense and really good starting pitching in theory, they've been injured obviously, then go double down on the pen and just be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, who did the Mariners just play? Oh, the Twins are just, their
Yeah.
pen is sick.
Yeah, it is.
Like, just have that kind of pen.
Yeah. Well, they used to be good at finding
Right.
a fourth or fifth guy off
Right.
the scrap heap, and they just haven't. Like Colin Snyder has just
Yeah.
it's been awful recently. And that was like their one real big success. They really need a second lefty that
Yeah.
lets Gabe Spire pitch in later innings when the lefty is needed, as opposed to whenever the lefty is needed, because there's no other lefty. Or they need a third right-handed guy that can take the seventh inning if
Right.
Spire has to pitch against a lefty spot earlier than that.
Yeah.
Because right now they just don't
yeah.
have the starting pitchers to get seven enough. And the variance late in games it's tricky for them to pin down. Yeah, I absolutely think they probably could have done more out there, but I don't know. They just, I think the biggest problem with the overall machine right now is they get this limited budget and they don't spend it well.
Yeah.
So either you have to get more budget and spend on better,
Yeah.
or be better at spending less budget. And right now it feels like the less budget forces DePoto to sort of fight himself and sign stuff that actively hurts the product that you already have.
Well, it's not a very optimistic view, but that's what we have for this week. So maybe the Mariners will have a great road trip. They are playing a really tough schedule. I just looked at it for the rest of the first half, which is tough. They finished with the Yankees.
They've had a very soft schedule.
But this team doesn't seem to matter, right? At least that's been their track record.
Exactly. They hurt themselves.
So, Patrick, we appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Sorry about.
Do you like, Kev, before we do a top 5, do you like ASMR videos?
The ones where they hold the wrapper really close.
Click into box stuff, or or they talk really close to the microphone.
Like, we could do ASMR right now.
Yeah, I was, oh, you're gonna unwrap something. What do you got there, Kev?
Like
a hoops?
Haunted Hoops card pack.
I feel like you shouldn't open that. Is that worth something?
No.
Haunted Hoops card pack. This is great podcasting right here. This is amazing. So for those not on video, Kevin is opening a Haunted Hoops. I'm ruining the ASMR by talking over it.
Got Gary Harris.
Okay. Terrible.
Scott Henderson.
Scoot
Henderson.
That's from the Blazers. He was like the number 2 pick. Scott Henderson.
Max Struss. What a bad pack.
Max Struess. God, you don't watch any NBA. That is, you get 3 cards in that thing. Wow. That was really anticlimactic. Let's see if our top 5 is better.
Okay. Who's going first?
I'm going to go first. Okay. On Sunday, George Kirby, thank the Lord, pitched awesomely, out of his mind for the Mariners. 14 strikeouts in 7 innings. He was filthy. He was awesome. I watched nearly every at bat. It was a wonderful experience. George Kirby, I believe in that game, recorded his 500th strikeout. Did you know that?
No.
Okay.
I was riding him because he's on my fantasy team in our league. So
I know, and I offered a trade to you that you ignored. You always ignore my trade offers. Can you not ignore them? Can you just respond? Can you and Jeff respond? Is Jeff listening to this podcast?
Yeah.
Jeff, you have no closers, okay? Can you please trade one of your outfielders for some closers?
I'm pretty sure we're ahead of you in the standings.
You're not.
We're third and you're second. Okay.
And you'll drop to 6 because you won't have any saves. And I'm trying to give you a lifeline because I invited you to the league.
Yep,
okay.
Yep, whatever.
All right. Top 5 career strikeouts in Mariners franchise history.
All right. Felix,
Number 1.
Randy Johnson.
Number 2. See, I always give you the ones with 2 easies because it's
Yeah.
like Edgar and Griffey, Felix and Randy. But go
All
ahead.
right, now it gets hard.
Yep.
I almost want to say Jamie Moyer because of his longevity, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
And I want to say Mark Langston as just a reflexive thing. Mark Langston.
Number 4. By the way, he has 1,078 strikeouts in his career as a Mariner, and I'm almost positive. I'm going to double check this as you're thinking your next one that Kirby is now over 500. So you know it's probably not George Kirby, but that's what made me think of it.
God, I'm just going to say Jamie Moyer.
He's 3rd all time. Nice job.
People don't. I was doing the math in my head. I was like, well, he maybe 4 strikeouts a game. How many wins does he have? Like around 150 to 200, maybe 150 with the Mariners.
Were you trying to make a Hall of Fame case?
No.
Oh.
Okay, so
Moyer has 145 wins with the Mariners. That's interesting as well.
Okay, so I need one more. Like, who's number 5?
Number 5, yeah, yep.
Is it in the past 25?
I'm not giving you any clue. Yours are so hard for me all the time.
God, I want to say Hisashi Ukuma.
Can you say it one more time?
Hisashi.
Are you saying that or not?
Yes, I'm saying it.
He's number 9. That's strike number 1.
God.
Ironically, 2 strikes and you're out in this game.
God.
I used ironically correctly that time. I like that you didn't care that I used ironically.
This is hard. If people are yelling right now for the 5th person, I'm gonna go.
So I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, go ahead. I've almost given you a clue twice, and then I stopped because of my competitiveness.
Who was the guy that started games before Felix, after Felix? God.
Lots of people.
I don't know who it is. I don't know.
You can guess another Mariners starting pitcher.
Yeah, Luis Castillo.
No, he's number 17 all time.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't close.
Mike Moore, who we've talked about before.
Okay,
who you
yeah,
have no memory of.
There would have been no way. Yeah.
Freddie Garcia was number 6, who I thought you were going to get to.
Yeah, I started strong.
Yep, you did. Yeah, you got Felix, Randy, and Moyer. Nice job. Oh, you got Langston, which I'm proud of you for because you didn't watch Mark Langston. I feel like I have a part in that for you because of how much I've talked about him. So
yeah,
I bring it up in part just to have trivia, but also so Kirby got 500 and he had 495 coming into today, so he's at 509. So he is 18th all time. Castillo's 531, 17th all time. Gilbert is 7th at 755. Gilbert will come back maybe in the next week and a half, and Gilbert will probably have 100 strikeouts, 150 the rest of the year maybe. And if he gets 100, I mean, if he gets like, he'll be 6th all the time at the end of the year, and he'll have a real shot at getting in the top 5 next year, which is kind of interesting. Like, my point is, where will Gilbert, Kirby, and Castillo end up in Mariners history in a lot of these things? You know, which ones will be with the team? Can I give you a bonus top 5 that I won't give you, but is 5 players? I don't know if this is updated, but this was it was a little bit of a viral stat recently that career earned run average for the Mariners is a 5-way tie for first place. Did you know this?
No.
So career ERA, Felix Iwakuma, Randy Johnson, James Paxton, and Luis Castillo are all tied at a 3.42 career ERA.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. I think Castillo's, because he's had a really nice year, he might be number 1 all time in Mariners history.
Which is funny because he's probably like the worst out of the aces on the Mariners staff.
Well,
right
that's
now.
our perception of him, but I would say like right now he's not. Right now he's pretty good. Although he wasn't great the other night, and he just doesn't get the swing and miss that some of the other guys get. I mean, Kirby looked phenomenal today. I'm trying to see if
our eyes are screwed up.
Yeah. All right. You have one for me.
Top 5 stolen bases all time. Mariners.
Can I just look at the page I'm on and do it?
No, that defeats the purpose.
All right, fair enough. Harold Reynolds.
Number 3, 228.
Julio Cruz.
Number 2, 290.
Ichiro Suzuki.
Number 1, 438.
All right, that was quick. Now it gets hard. Julio.
Julio is number 10 with
That was
97
stupid.
steals.
That was so stupid.
There's actually a current Mariner on the roster that's
Yeah.
above Julio, but not in the top 5. So that doesn't help you at all.
I'm going to tell you who that is without guessing it. Okay. So
Yeah.
it doesn't count. Dylan Moore.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
number 6 with 112.
Okay.
Can you believe he's played 633 games for the Mariners?
Who is the guy that we had a guy who was really getting a lot of steals a couple years?
It's not that guy.
Okay. I know I didn't give you any hints, but you didn't give me some eras here or no?
Yeah, I'll give you the biggest hint.
Okay.
These guys are household names.
Oh boy.
Household names outside of Seattle.
No, really? That guy didn't play long enough. Alex Rodriguez.
Number 5, 133.
Yeah. Okay.
You got number 4.
Dang. This is
He's in the top 100.
I'm just gonna go Mike Cameron.
No. This Ken Griffey.
Oh, that's stupid. Of course. I forgot when he's young, right?
167 steals for the Mariners. Yeah,
that's
Cameron
a
had
good top
106.
5.
Yeah.
That's a good top 5.
Julio's going to just jump up, though. I mean, Julio's 97. Like, he's going to...
keeps getting hit in the ankle while he's running.
It's bad luck.
Can I just talk about Griffey real quick before we go?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of his first, he's under the bases that aren't as close as they are now, but his time in Seattle, right up until he went to Cincinnati, his high after he left Cincinnati was 6 steals. But the year before he left, he had 24, which is career high. He was 15 or more in 8 seasons for the Mariners.
And to give you context, Julio has had 25, 37, 24, and he has 11 this year. I kind of want him to get to 37.
He's at 10 and 10 right now.
Yeah.
I don't think. You know who has 7 steals, Kev?
Cal Raleigh.
Cal Raleigh. So amazing. How does he have 7 steals? I know that everything's different, but
how does he
God
lead the
bless
league in
him.
home runs?
I can't even. We got to save it for Patrick. Cal Raleigh is just the best.
All right, we'll see y'all next week.
See ya.